December 26, 2014, from the Tropicana field in St. Petersburg, Florida. It was the St. Petersburg Bowl between the North Carolina State Wolfpack and the Central Florida Knights. So Central Florida would get the ball first. They'd start off on the 25 after the kickoff, and they would move into North Carolina territory and into field goal range before their drive stalled on the 23, and out would come Sean Moffitt to attempt a 40-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Knights put the first points on the scoreboard with the score UCF 3, North Carolina State 0. So now the Wolfpack would take over on their own 25 after the kickoff, and they would move into midfield and then get into Central Florida territory. And on 2nd and 9 from the 18, Shadrack Thornton hit Jalen Samuels for an 18-yard touchdown pass as North Carolina State got on the scoreboard with the score now. North Carolina State 7, UCF 3. So the Wolfpack took the lead, and now after the kickoff, Central Florida would have the ball on their own 25 with about 6 minutes left in the first quarter. They would bring the ball to midfield, and that's where they would end up punting after 7 plays from the 50. So now the Wolfpack would take over on their own 7-yard line, backed up against their own end zone with about 3 minutes left in the first, and they went 3 and out and would punt from their own 16. So now the Knights took over on their own 33 with about a minute left in the first quarter. And on 1st and 10 from the North Carolina State 34, Josh Reese ran 6 yards and brought the first quarter to a close. So the Knights were in NC State territory as the first quarter came to a close with the score NC State 7, UCF 3. So now to begin the second quarter, the Knights would have the ball on the North Carolina State 28. It was 2nd and 4. Holman hit Hall for a 5-yard pass and a first down at the 23. They then were faced with a 3rd and 14 from the 27, and Holman hit Reese for a 19-yard reception, a first down that made a 1st and goal on the 8. Then on 3rd and goal from the 6, Holman went to Reese for a 6-yard touchdown pass as the Knights took back the lead with the score UCF 10, NC State 7. So now the Wolfpack would take over on their own 22 with about 12 and a half left in the second quarter, and they would get the ball to midfield and into Central Florida territory. And on 1st and 10 from the 37, Jacoby Brissett hit Jonathan Alston for a 37-yard touchdown as the Wolfpack took back the lead with the score now North Carolina State 14, Central Florida 10. So now the Knights would take over on their own 25 after the kickoff with about 9 minutes left before halftime. They went 3 and out and would punt from their own 33. So now the Wolfpack would take over after the punt on their own 24. They actually lost 14 yards on first down that pushed them back to the 10, and that would lead up to a 3rd and 22 from the 12. Brissett then went to Bo Hines. He picked up 33 and a first down at the 45. Then on 2nd and 4 from the 49, Brissett went back to Hines, this time for a 45-yard reception, and it was now 1st and goal on the 4. They weren't able to get into the end zone, and on 4th and goal from the 2, out would come Nicholas Sade as he would attempt a 19-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and the Wolfpack extended their lead to 7 with the score North Carolina State 17, Central Florida 10. So now the Knights would take over on their own 25 with about 3 minutes left before the half. And after 5 plays, they would end up punting from the North Carolina State 42. So now the Wolfpack would take over on their own 20 with about less than 2 minutes left before halftime. And they were able to get all the way down to the red zone. But on 3rd and 11 from the 16, Brissett was sacked by Miles Pace. And that brought the first half to a close. So they weren't able to score, although they were in field goal range and in the red zone. But at halftime, the score was North Carolina State 17, Central Florida 10. So now to begin the second half, the Wolfpack would get the ball first. They had on their own 25 after the kickoff, and they would bring it to midfield and into Central Florida territory. And on 1st and 10 from the UCF 24, Matt Days took it 24 yards to the house for the touchdown, as it was now a 14-point lead for North Carolina State with the score NC State 24, UCF 10. So now the Knights would take over on their own 25 after the kickoff with about 12 minutes left in the third, and they went 3 and out and punted from the 30. So after the punt, Wolfpack would take over on their own 25, and they would end up getting the ball up to the 42, and on first down it was a fumble by Brissett. They would turn it over to the Knights, who now took over with a little less than 9 minutes left in the third. They had it in NC State territory on the 34. They got into the red zone on the edge of the red zone, but on 4th and 6 from the 19, out would come Sean Moffitt to attempt a 36-yard field goal. It was up. It was good. It was now an 11-point game with the score NC State 24, UCF 13. So now the Wolfpack would take over on their own 25 after the kickoff. And on first down, Shadarak Thornton ran 24 yards all the way to the 49 for the first down. And on 2nd and 1 from the 42, Thornton ran 3 yards to the first down to the 39. Then on 2nd 1 from the 30, Days ran 7 yards to the 23 for the first down. And on 2nd and 2 from the 15, Days took it all the way in for the 15-yard touchdown. And it was now NC State 31, UCF 13. So now the Knights would get the ball on their own 33 after the kickoff, and they would go 3 and out and punt from the 37. So the Wolfpack would take over on their own 16 after the punt with less than 2 minutes left in the third. They would be faced with a 4th and 6 from the 37 after having picked up a first down earlier. And they brought out the punting unit, so they punted after 4 plays from the 37 as the third quarter came to a close with the score North Carolina State 31, Central Florida 13. So now after the punt, the Knights would have the ball on their own 9-yard line and begin the fourth quarter. But they would go 3 and out and end up punting from the 14. So now the Wolfpack would get the ball back at midfield on their own 49 with about 14 minutes left in regulation. And they would get a first down and move into field goal range. And that's where Nicholas Sade would end up attempting a 45-yard field goal. It was up, it was good, and now it was NC State 34, UCF 13. So now the Knights would have the ball on their own 25 to begin this possession. And on first down, Holman hit Perriman for a 33-yard reception and a first down in NC State territory at the 42. Then on 3rd and 16 from the 48, Holman hit Hall for a 34-yard reception to make it a first down in the red zone at the 14. That's where Holman hit Josh Reese for a 14-yard touchdown pass that made this a 14-point game with the score North Carolina State 34, Central Florida 20. So now the Wolfpack would take over on their own 25 after the kickoff. They would end up going 3 and out and punting from the 24. So now the Knights would take over on their own 40 with about 10 minutes left in regulation, down by 2 scores. And on 3rd and 10 from the 40, Holman went to Reese. He picked up 10 on the first down at the 50. Then on 3rd and 10 from the 50, Holman dropped back and he was intercepted by Josh Jones. And so now the Wolfpack would take over at midfield at the 50. They'd end up punting, though, after 5 plays from the UCF 47. So now the Knights would take back over, still trailing by 14 with the ball on their own 20, with just over 6 minutes left in regulation. They were faced with a 4th and 1 from the 29, and Dontarius Wilson picked up 4 yards on a run to bring it to the 33, but then 4 incomplete passes would turn the ball over on downs. And so now the Wolfpack would take over with 4.5 minutes left on the clock, up by 14, and the ball on their own 33, on the UCF 33 rather, after that turnover on downs. And they would end up going for a 47-yard field goal after 4 plays, and it was miss, as Nicholas Sade missed the field goal, and it remained NC State 34, UCF 20. So now the Knights had the ball on their own 30 with less than 3 minutes left, trailing by 2 score, needing to go 70 yards. And still get another touchdown and an onside kick. They would end up getting all the way down into NC State territory, faced with 2nd and goal from the 2, and Holman hit Reese for the 2-yard touchdown. It was now an 8-point game, actually a 7-point game. Yeah, they got the extra point, and now it was a 7-point game with the score NC State 34, UCF 27. So they actually kicked the ball off, and it was not returned. Actually, it was an onside kick, and it was recovered by the Wolfpack. And so now they took 3 knees, and this game came to a close. So the Knights made it interesting in the end, but the final score, North Carolina State 34, Central Florida 27, as the Wolfpack wins the St. Petersburg Bowl, as it was almost a home game for the Knights. Of course, they play in Orlando, and this was just right next to Tampa, as St. Pete's is neighbors with Tampa Bay. Tropicana Field, that's where the Rays play. But in this game for the Wolfpack, Jacoby Brissett was 15 for 26. He had 262 yards and a touchdown. He also had 14 carries for 31 yards on the ground. Justin Holman for the Knights had 23 for 53 with 291 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. He also had 9 carries for 27 yards on the ground as well. The leading rusher was Shadrack Thornton. He had 17 carries for 96 yards. Matt Days had 13 carries for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. And for Central Florida, William Stanback had 12 carries for 38 yards to be their leading rusher. Thornton actually threw a touchdown pass as well. He was 1 for 1. So he had 96 yards on the ground, and he had 18 yards throwing with a touchdown. And the leading receiver was Bo Hines. He had 3 receptions for 79 yards. He also threw a pass. One pass, he was 1 for 1. He had 20 passing yards in this game as well for Bo Hines. And Jonathan Alston was 3 for 58. And Jalen Samuels was 3 for 41 yards receiving. They both had touchdowns. And the leading receiver for the Central Florida Knights was Brashad Perriman. He was the leading receiver in the game with 9 receptions for 138 yards. And Ronald Hall had 7 receptions for 78 yards. And Josh Reese had 6 receptions for 75 yards, 3 of which were for touchdowns. So half of his catches were for touchdowns. The lone interception was for Josh Jones of the Wolfpack. So the Wolfpack got out to a big lead. They were up 34-13 in the fourth quarter. But then Central Florida scores 2 touchdowns to make it interesting. But North Carolina State holds on to win the St. Petersburg Bowl 34-7.